This episode of Gun Culture Radio is brought to you by the Sonoran Desert Institute of Firearms Technology. They are an online accredited gunsmithing college, and you can check them out at sdi.edu. Enjoy the show.
All right. Well, here we are again.
Let's go.
Okay, so one of the things that first, what was that story that you read about the cop?
Oh yeah, earlier this week I read a story it was in CNN. Credible source, thank you. At the Capitol Police in Washington.
Wait, were you being sarcastic or not?
No, not at all. The Capitol Police in Washington D.C. In fact, it was a personal security detail for a couple of unnamed U.S. senators. Left their Glocks, the G word, the Glock, in the toilet of the Capitol building.
Jeez.
Yes, and that it wasn't that big deal. They just left a semi-automatic pistol sitting in the bathroom, and then the the cleanup crew came along and found it.
Wow.
And yes, the Capitol Police were strongly embarrassed. But this is the elite private security detail for U.S. senators leaving their Glock automatic pistols in the toilet unsecured.
I can't believe it.
And one of the things they mentioned too was that, and I love saying this. Yes, I do. That one of the points that they mentioned was that the issue was that the Glock does not have a safety.
Yeah.
My God.
Well, the first issue before we get into the safety thing.
Okay.
What the hell were they thinking?
Come on, man, that lasagna, it was bad. I didn't have time. I just had to throw it down on the ground.
Yeah. I mean, okay, so the only place they could have said it, obviously, was on the back of the toilet. I mean, unless they somehow put it on the seat. I can't imagine how that would work.
Yeah, they get back out in the parking lot. Hey, I think I forgot something.
Yeah.
I'll think about it later. No problem.
I can just hear the Glockators right now. They're like, oh, that's because it fell in the toilet and it blended in.
Good joke. I wish I thought of that. But slight oversight.
Yeah. Now first of all, anybody can make a mistake.
Yes.
But there's certain things it's just it's hard to see any excuse for. I mean, your gun. I mean, you're on duty.
Yes.
I mean, even as a concealed carrier, I can't even imagine that ever happening.
That goes back to that responsibility issue that we keep harping on here, is that when you got a weapon on you, it is always in the back of your mind, I have a weapon.
Right.
I have to think that maybe the fact that these people were so elite that they didn't focus on the common sense aspect, which is, I got a weapon on me.
That's true.
Never forget that, because I've seen that before. A lot of these high speed elite units get so caught up in the forced entry, swinging through windows, that they forget, hey, I shouldn't leave my gun in the bathroom.
Yeah. And sometimes they're they're college boys with guns.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Yeah. Like the whole, that's the thing that all the other agencies always give the FBI hell, because they're they have all these different things for nicknames for them and stuff like that, because they're these highly educated, which they need to be, but when it comes to the gun stuff, it's
the common sense things that other people make a priority.
Right.
So
and the problem is there's such a divide between just general gun knowledge when it comes to cops, because it seems to me that what it really comes down to is the cops who know guns are the ones who do a lot of that on their own. They're into guns, just their general training sometimes doesn't seem to fill in all the holes.
Stuff that I think a lot of it too is that when you get to that level, people assume you got a certain level of just basic training.
Yeah, maybe they got laxed.
Exactly. Again, they assumed that at this level, come on, do I have to tell you to always check for your gun?
Right.
Should I have to tell you that? Sometimes they assume that. Example, the Army didn't have marksmanship training until 1906. Before 1906, the Army just assumed that you're a man. Of course you can shoot a gun.
Right.
So again, I'm sure there was something like that.
Yeah. So that's just unbelievable.
I think they're going to hit them up with some suspension with pay, or a week or something like that, which they lucked out that the wrong person didn't come along and find that weapon.
Right. Exactly. So now when you get down to the safety issue, now when it comes to okay, there's two different issues. First of all, there's just handguns with safeties in general, which we'll get into. But first, let's talk about this specific situation. You know, if it had a safety on it, would it made a difference, and was that legit for that to be even an issue at all in that situation?
I think the person that, besides me, the person that said something about the safety issue with a Glock was someone who isn't necessarily gun experienced.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The fact that it was a reporter, maybe not necessarily having a weapons background, pointing out the fact that the Glocks did not have an external safety. The point I think he was getting at was, what if a kid had come by, seen that gun, picked it up, and squeezed that trigger?
And now, of course, even if it was a gun that had an external safety, it could have been, they may have taken the safety off and set it up there. Or it could have been someone who knew how to use a gun.
You never know. It's just scary. The scenarios, all of them that could have happened, are just scary.
Now, safety's on a handgun. Now, my opinion on that matter is maybe different from yours. I don't know. It probably is a little bit, but
yeah, slightly.
I definitely agree with something you said earlier about if external safeties are what you're used to, then it's smart to stick with that.
Yes.
But if you have a good holster that covers the trigger guard, I don't think you necessarily need a safety on a handgun, because the thing is, a lot of people, at least the way I used to use a 1911 was, whenever it came out of my holster, I took the safety off. Now, some trainers, that you don't take the safety off until like right before you shoot, but I would always take it off once it cleared my holster. Not like right as it cleared my holster, but once I pulled it, that first motion of pulling it up out of the holster, safety went off, and then I pushed it forward. So really, it's not different in that sense. Once that gun is totally safe, because you can't get to the trigger guard in the holster, but once it comes out, then it's ready to go. So I don't think that it's it's but I get like where you're coming from, where you're used to having that extra added safety.
Being fair, as always, it's all about the shooter.
Right.
If no matter what weapon you have, one with an external safety or one without, if you've trained properly and keep reinforcing that training, it shouldn't be a problem.
Right.
Personally, I was brought up, every weapon I ever had, Army or not, had an external safety. I would feel kind of queasy knowing that there's a gun sitting over there that does not have a safety on it. Anybody could just come pick it up and shoot
just pull the trigger.
Yeah, exactly. That scares me personally.
Yeah.
But again, it depends on the background you had and how much of a responsible person you are.
Yeah.
But if you're gonna carry a Glock, if that word burns as it crosses my tongue. If you're going to carry that weapon, then train properly so that there are no incidents like this, which I'm sure that's not common, thank God.
Yeah, so we basically we both agree that it comes down to a preference issue. Because you grew up shooting handguns that had safeties, and I grew up with lots of them, but I was very familiar with Glocks growing up, so I was understood that concept of not having a safety and the importance of it and all this stuff. One thing that sometimes you'll see is people will say that Glocks don't have any safeties, and that's not true. They do have safeties, but the difference in philosophy is Glocks are designed, and guns like them, they're designed to where they will not fire unless that trigger is pulled. Now, there's no external safety to where it keeps the trigger from being pulled if it's hot. But if you drop it or whatever, or they even have they have a little safety in the trigger. Yeah. So if you just kind of hit the side of it, it won't pull, which I don't really think that really does much.
Is it a real safety? I mean, really?
Yeah, I don't think it does much, to be honest. I've experimented with some. I mean, if you barely get the trigger, it won't really pull because that little piece in there blocks it. But I mean, it didn't save what's his name, that NFL player that
I'm a big believer in my idea, my image of a safety is that someone picks up that weapon with the intent of pulling that trigger, firmly grasp it, pulls that trigger, and nothing happens.
Yeah.
So that's my image of a safety.
Right. When it comes to external safeties, I'm a little paranoid about trusting them for some reason sometimes, because I feel like they can be so easily knocked off.
Yes, exactly. Yes, just because it's there, you don't put complete trust in it. Like, you keep your finger off that trigger until it's time to fire.
You pretend like it's not there. It's just an extra.
Exactly. Exactly. I'm not going to say, well, no problem, I'll just go ahead and just squeeze this trigger because I got my safeties on. No. Finger off the trigger. You have to be. You're the weapon. The gun is a tool.
Right.
And if you are doing stupid stuff, that weapon is going to fire. Right. In fact, I guess I'll say this. You see that movie Shoot 'Em Up? Clive Owens.
Yeah.
That guy.
That movie's nuts. Yeah.
He says that this is off subject, of course. He says guns don't kill people, but they sure help. Great line.
Yeah, that's funny.
But anyway, you gotta be safe. You're the weapon, not the gun. You're the weapon. You gotta do the right thing the right way. Be responsible.
Right.
If you're not doing that, somebody's gonna get hurt.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That's the moral of all of that is responsibility is a big thing, and also just knowing your limitations. That's the big thing. It's like people could really get themselves into trouble by not being honest with themselves about what their limitations are, what they can do, and also even I forget who it was. There's some famous trainer that would, I want to say maybe it was Masa Yub, I can't remember, but he would always, actually we talked about this on the last show, he would always have money in his pocket, and if someone tried to rob him, he would just throw him the money.
There you go, yeah.
Even though he was like wicked with a gun. Maybe that's not the right word to use, but he was very proficient.
He de-escalated. I mean, he didn't have to kill this guy. This guy wants a little change. Here you go, man. Have a nice day.
Yeah.
Hey, it's not worth killing you over.
You know, he was not necessarily, like a guy like that is not necessarily limited in that situation.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily, I feel like I'm proficient enough to where I don't feel limited in most situations.
Now, if all they want is money, here you go. Have a nice day. Leave me alone. Go away. Now, the problem with that is that some of these younger criminals will off you anyway, even though, like that guy in some town south of this secret location here in Colorado.
Yeah. We rented out the old military base. It's like a mile on the ground.
Under a mountain, This individual, these two 18-year-old individuals robbed the store. The cashier complied, and they blasted him anyway.
Wow.
And they caught him. But I heard one shooter said that, why leave any witnesses? Forget that. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
That's completely senseless. The guy complied, and you killed him anyway. It's senseless.
You got to make a tough judgment call in some of those situations. Because, I mean, if the guy is willing to go into a store like that with a gun and force someone to give him money, he might be willing to do something more.
As a carrier, what else can you assume? The fact that he came in here and pulled a weapon on me, what other choice you have to assume that he's willing to shoot me?
Right.
I mean, they could say, I wasn't going to. How do I know that?
Yeah.
How do I know that?
Yeah.
Like I remember when I was in school, we studied a case where this one guy broke into a store with an empty gun. And he felt like he should not be charged with armed robbery because the gun wasn't loaded. Well, how does the victim know that?
Yeah.
How do I know?
Yeah.
Am I looking down the barrel? I don't see a bullet down there. How do I know?
Yeah, exactly.
So, no, BS. If you're confronted with someone with a weapon, you can only assume if they're willing to draw a weapon on you, they're willing to kill you.
That whole thing about some bad guy would stick his hand like in his pocket or and rob a place or whatever. Yeah, that doesn't fly anymore. At some point they changed the laws on that where if you act like you have a gun, it's a gun.
Or if somebody with a gun blasts you, hey, I thought you had a gun, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So that's how come bank robbers aren't really gangster anymore.
Yeah.
They come in there, here's a note, give me the money, all right, here you go. And they walk out. Why they do that? Because the bank doesn't want the liability of getting somebody shot. So the tellers are trained to just give them the money.
Right.
So again, you can't really claim that you're a gangster if you're a bank robber anymore.
And plus, 2015, John Dillinger is actually like some 22-year-old kid that sits around and plays video games all day and is like a master hacker.
Yeah, that's right. Why do I need to leave my house?
Yeah, exactly.
I can just hack into the bank and get it sent to my account.
Today's John Dillinger lives in his parents' basement.
Cheetos.
at least when he first gets started.
That's right. And after he run a couple of jobs, he goes out there and gets his own place. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. The world's changed like that. It's it's good and it's bad. I mean, the technology has given us more opportunities to do things, but then it's also made us more vulnerable.
True.
In some ways, especially when it comes to money. I mean,
yeah, because most banking's done electronically.
Yeah.
Most banks I think only have 12,000 in cash in there.
Well,
if that much.
Yeah, not a lot. Yeah,
because most banking's done electronically.
Right.
So it's safer to a point.
Yeah.
But the old school Dillinger, like that movie.
Public Enemies. Yeah.
Public Enemies. Man, I loved it because back then criminals would dress up in a suit and tie with a Tommy gun, go rob the bank in their overcoat. You know, and hat,
They're class, right?
Yeah, exactly. We're robbing a bank, but we have to dress properly. I mean,
right,
I mean, come on. For the days, bro. Come on.
That's an interesting time, back when they could just outgun the police like that.
Well, yeah, most cops. We covered this, I think, on an earlier show. Most cops back then had to buy their own gun.
Yeah.
Which was a 32 revolver.
Yeah. That's just crazy.
And they jump out with a Thompson, which you could buy at a hardware store. They were the days, bro.
Yeah. And it's hard to know too how much of that when you get those old stories is true and stuff. Like for example, I was watching this thing with Dad on Jesse James on the History Channel, and it was like, I don't know, it was hard to tell. It's hard to know the truth of some of these kinds of things, that happen. And that was a good example of that. And I feel like I said this on another show. I can't remember. But anyway, but still, Jesse James is like, some people loved him and some people hated him.
He gave off that Robin Hood image, after the Civil War. We're sticking it to the Yankees, by God. Okay, you're shooting people down. Yeah, but they're Yankees.
Yeah, that's the thing. And there's been lots of people like that in history to where they have this Robin Hood image, but then they're also hated by another group, whether it's the government or whoever it is. And it's hard to know, the real story. Were they really as bad as they say, or they as good as they say,
or maybe they were more vicious than what we thought?
Yeah.
Well, it depends on the times too. Jesse James was a very active right after the Civil War. There's a lot of animosity. During Reconstruction of the South, a lot of hard times. So of course the people supported him because he was sticking it to the man.
Yeah.
Back in 1876, Bonnie and Clyde, again, Depression era America. Everybody's blaming the government for the Great Depression. So these guys, they were just a couple of kids riding around trying to make a living. No, they were shooting down police. They killed 8 of them, I think.
A bunch.
They're a bunch. They were some stone cold killers, So, but they gave off that image of just 2 kids out there having a good. I don't think so, dude. Kids with Tommy guns. I don't. No, they use BARs. Yeah,
I think they have both. I think.
My God.
There's some kind of famous picture of them in front of their car, and they got all their guns displayed. They got like BARs and Thompson shotguns, all kinds of stuff.
Versus the local county sheriff deputy or the local town cop with his .38 service revolver. Come on, dude. Okay. Yes, the bank's over there, please. Yes. Okay, don't shoot.
Yeah. You think they would have learned? The .38 wasn't enough for the military. But the cops still had them for so long.
They had to buy their own guns. So, you had to buy on a Depression era policeman's salary, buy a gun. So what's the cheapest you got? The .38 snub nose. Okay.
I mean, it seems like, as you probably know this history better than I do, but what was that? There was a conflict that our government was involved in some island area, like around turn of the century or something.
Cuba.
Is it
Spanish
Cuba?
American War, yeah.
Well, was it that one? Okay. There was some war that happened where they still used the I think it might be after that where they still used the .38 double action revolver.
We're talking about the Philippines, yeah.
Okay, and there was no stopping power. They just kept running at them.
Because the Moro. I'm mispronouncing that for all you people in the Philippines. I'm sure you have many Filipino listeners.
Yes.
The Moro warriors would use drugs and also constriction bands on their body, and they would come charging the Americans, and the Americans would use the .38 service revolver to fire on them, and it wouldn't have any real effect.
Yeah.
Or it wouldn't have the effect that they wanted to have.
Yeah.
So thus they call back to DC, hey, we need something bigger, more powerful. And by God, this bolt from heaven came down, and now we have the 1911.
Well, first, actually, it was this gun called the which that did eventually happen, but it was It was a gun called I think they called it the new service revolver.
It's it was the intermediate weapon between the .38 and the 1911.
Yeah, and it was It was chambered in .45 long Colt, the same that Henry got is chambered in, and and they found that was more effective. Then they went to the 1911 like just a few years after that or something. But it seems to me like those cops though back in the 30s. So I mean, we're talking about like turn of the century, and then now fast forward up to like the 30s when you have all these bank robberies and stuff happening.
I have to think that even though it was back then, a 1911 would have been a brand new weapon.
That's true.
It would have been the Glock of its time.
Even in the 30s, yeah.
And I hate making that comparison.
Yeah.
But it would have been the Glock of its time. So it would have been fairly expensive.
it's true, but the 1911 definitely would have. But you would think that they could have got their hands on some of the new service revolvers. You would think that would have been a common police gun, a 45 long Colt double action revolver.
I gotta think maybe some of the bigger jurisdictions like Chicago or some of the Detroit, bigger towns, yeah. But these little wide places in the road, western towns, 3-man police force. Hey, get some guy out, or a constable, which is a guy elected by the town, to go be a police officer. In some states, a constable doesn't have to go to the police academy.
Yeah,
he can just, okay, here you go. We all choose you to be the police. Go ahead and do it. It's still out there today.
I just had a thought. I guess one of the best ways to understand what it was like for those Dillinger type gangs to come into those towns, it would be like if John Dillinger with all their Thompsons and their BARs, all this heavy weapons, just rolled into Mayberry.
There's Andy and Barney out there. The sheriff without a gun. Right. Okay, Andy. I'm going to use harsh language. I'm just going to talk them down with some of my old country knowledge.
Yeah, some good old folksy wisdom.
Okay, I got to say this. Now that you said that you open that can of worms.
Yeah.
Okay, you know what? They didn't have any real crime in Mayberry. Any real crime?
Hey, there was the drunk
that let himself into the jail, slipped off and let himself out. Okay, come on. Come on.
I think there was a lady once that sold Barney a car that wasn't what he thought it was.
Oh yeah. Oh my God. God. Oh yeah. Okay. So you know what? I think it made us feel good to think that, they're just there are places like that out there. I hope not.
Yeah.
Because if there's any Bayberries left out there, they better look out. They better hope nobody ever finds out about it.
Yeah.
My God. That's the 60s. Come on.
I'm sure there are some, but nowadays, just everything has grown up so much that there's a big police force close. There's no area in the country hardly, except for maybe like way out west, and out there's nothing to rob in some of those areas. Where there can't be, some serious police officers that are really fast.
Yes, your smallest police forces, your smallest departments in America have assault rifles, body armor, new vehicles, because that's federally funded.
Yeah.
So there's no reason for any jurisdiction not to have the equipment it needs. And I think especially since 9/11, Homeland Security makes sure that everybody's equipped.
Yeah.
Because, people talk a lot about, the police becoming the army. Yeah, until something happens.
Right.
And then if they don't have the equipment, then we're going to call them the Keystone Cops. You know? When something happens, when like the Boston bombing or some Ferguson situation breaks out or some nutcase gets a gun and starts shooting, you don't want the police to show up. And you want them to be fully equipped and trained.
Exactly. It's like lawyers. Like I had a lawyer on the show last time. Great guy. And we were talking about at the beginning how everybody says they hate lawyers.
Until they need one.
Yeah, until they need one. It was just ridiculous. That's right. The cops are the same way.
It's hypocrisy.
Yeah.
Okay, I love saying this. Everybody don't like the police until you need one.
Yep.
And then when you need one and that car pulls up, it's the second coming of Jesus, by God.
Yeah.
By God, why did he get here?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Why did it take him so long?
Exactly. So, but people are hypocritical.
And people have a hard time, being honest with themselves and really looking at things in a good, like, unbiased kind of light.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, there's this thing. This might get a little bit too weird for some people, but
here it comes.
Yeah, here it comes. But there's this thing that I've kind of formulated from some of my own thinking and some reading I've done and stuff like that. When it comes to human thought and understanding, like trying to understand some kind of concept, whether it's presented to you as some kind of information or fact, whatever it is, or how you come to your decisions. There's really kind of like two ways that we do it that come from opposite ends, and you can almost characterize them as male and female in some ways. And I'm not talking about really the sex per se. It's more like just opposite ends, right?
Okay.
So the thing that represents the male would be an angle, right? Like think of like a 90-degree angle.
Okay.
And if you think about the female version of thought, think of like a circle, right? So if you And it actually is true. Like men, we tend to be more male brained when it comes to the way we think. We tend to be more analytical, and women tend to be more thinking in terms of more like free flowing and
Okay, dude.
curves. Okay, it's getting
words,
crazy.
Pick the words wisely.
Okay, I know it's getting crazy. All right, but it'll make sense.
Okay, go ahead.
So, all right. So, with understanding that, so let's think if you try to understand something in 100%, and nobody is 100% of either one. We all have some varying balance of different ones. You know, we've all known people that are just incredibly, analytical or all over the spectrum. All right. So now think about if you were trying to understand something and try to figure something out from a purely 100% analytical perspective.
Yep.
And then take that and think about it in the geometric sense of 90-degree angles. Think about if you're constructing something and you have to make an angle every time. Basically, what's going to happen is you're going to eventually box yourself in to the point where you're trapped.
Yep.
Right? You're going to box yourself in, which that's where you get closed-minded thoughts. If you think totally analytically, you're going to box yourself into a closed-minded position. And then you look at the flip side of it. If you're thinking totally in the sense of, what I call female thought, right? It's, curly lines, it's no angles. It's all just going all over the place. Then you're going to have no structure for your thought. It's going to go all over the place, and you're going to have no reference, or you're not going to be able to structure your thoughts and organize it, basically.
Especially the last week of the month.
Exactly.
Jesus, man. You're going to edit that out, right?
It depends. We'll see.
I'm sorry. Come on, women don't listen to this. Come on. Come on, I'm sorry.
But anyways, before that sexist remark.
Okay, all right. Back on point. Now, what were you saying again?
All you're doing was proving my point.
So you're right, exactly.
Right.
Okay, that was a perfect case in point right there.
Yeah, exactly. If you're too much of either one, you're going to run into problems, basically.
Yes.
Right? So you need like a balance of both.
Yes.
And sometimes, as guys, we can think about things, too analytically.
Yeah.
And we box ourselves in to this certain idea. Like
not flexible. You're too rigid because you box yourself in. You're rigid.
Yeah, exactly. And like it has to be this certain way.
Yeah, exactly.
Or that way. Yeah, and I think it's important to to know, again, know your limitations.
Exactly.
If you are like a really analytically minded person, and you know that you're, you have tendencies toward that kind of thought. Like understand that you're analytically minded, and that you might miss something. Because of that.
And because you can overthink things. You can overthink it. You can overanalyze, overthink.
Right. Yeah.
Exactly. And know yourself and be honest with yourself. I'm trying to think of a situation where I can apply that. Knowing yourself, I know that was a mall shooter up in a couple of years back up in Washington State. And this guy, he was a concealed carry permit holder. You heard about this?
Oh yeah. I think we talked about this before. Where the guy he like pointed his gun or something from like the second level and froze up. No, the one with the guy froze up. Okay,
yeah, I mean, to the range 2-3 times a month. Shooter from way back, concealed carry holder, and then when it came down to an actual shooter, walked past him, he froze on the trigger.
Yeah, overthought
it exactly. Yeah. Overthought it. And then knowing yourself, because it can box you in. Right. It can cause you not to act when you should. If he'd been more open-minded about himself and open to what his limitations were, I don't know.
Right.
We can sit here and second guess him all day, but I have to think that he maybe didn't know himself the way he should.
But the important lessons can be learned from that.
Yes.
It's like what we're saying. And an example of the opposite, the other way of thinking the opposite of the antithesis of analytical thinking that can get you in trouble is like driving, for example. If someone cuts you off. Oh, right. Yeah. If you're not, if you don't analyze how you're feeling in that situation, you don't realize like, okay, this guy cut me off. It's not the end of the world.
Exactly.
I shouldn't do anything crazy because this, and that can happen. That's where you need to analyze.
Like that guy in Kentucky that pointed a gun at somebody.
I didn't hear about that.
Oh, kid, that was about 5 months ago. Yeah, CNN covered it. This individual, unfortunately, he was a carry permit holder.
Yeah.
This guy who was not necessarily responsible or mature. Someone cut him off. He caught up with the individual, pulled up next to him, and then pointed his weapon at him.
Yeah.
And then the driver, the passenger in the other car, got him on cell phone camera, pointing a weapon at the driver. Dude, what were you thinking?
Yeah.
What were you thinking?
Like that's situation. You got to be mindful in
Aware
that
of yourself
situation.
and what you're doing, and if you're gonna, especially if you're gonna carry a weapon around with you all the time, what are you thinking, man?
Yeah,
And the fact that something's wrong with this guy, the fact that you would point a weapon at somebody for cutting you off on the highway, I don't know who in their right mind thinks about that. Thinks like that.
So it's worth it to you to to threaten this guy's life.
Exactly.
Because he might make you like a second later to where you're going.
Exactly. And they did apprehend him. They had put him into custody. They apprehended him, which they should have.
Right.
And they put him into custody. I don't know what happened to him, but that was completely irresponsible. And again, it came from not being mindful, not knowing himself the way he should, or he thought he did. And I can't think that any reasonable person would do something like that.
For some of you guys that are still listening, that weren't freaked out by all that, I was trying to explain. But it sounds crazy, and I probably didn't explain it very well. But where it helps is nowadays with the internet, there's so much information out there.
Yeah.
And trying to if you're someone that even cares, that's someone that's listening. Like I know we care. We are interested in things that are going on and trying to figure things out. But if you are trying to figure things out, it can be a mess. There's so much information out there.
So much disinformation too.
And it's so hard to distinguish what is what. And so that's why it's important, I think, to understand that. Because if you notice that people who are overly analytical a lot of times will come to a lot of the same kinds of conclusions. And basically just my point is it's important to be well balanced. And if you're not well balanced, be aware that you're not. Yes. Because that can take care of your problem right there.
And further on that, whenever you're trying to maybe look deeper into a issue, only go with credible sources. And I know that can be kind of hard to figure out who's credible and who isn't. But there are accepted people, accepted agencies, news agencies, accepted individuals who are considered credible, who have a reputation for telling the truth.
Yeah.
So we have to go with those, and then based on that, make your decision.
But then that's another thing too that makes it hard, because like when you say accepted, it's like accepted by who or by what?
Okay, yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like for example, there might be something out there that there's no way to know whether something is true or not. But let's say there's something that really is legit and credible, at least. But it might go against what the general accepted, ways of thinking are. And so if you buy into the accepted ways of thinking too much, then you might miss something important. Where if you'd actually looked into that, you might go, oh, that actually makes some sense.
That's where your personal convictions come into play. Then, after doing the best you can to find out what's right and what's not, then based on your own personal beliefs, you make the best decision you can. Make the best decision that you can.
Right.
Which it's not easy.
Right.
But don't be a sheep.
Yeah.
Well, so John told me, so I'm going to go do it. No.
Exactly. It's easy to just regurgitate, information. And, it's so hard to know when you listen to different people and watch the news and all this kind of stuff. The thing that I boil everything down to is if this person is, one, I look at, is he selling me something?
Yes.
Because that's the easiest way to know if they have an agenda or not.
Yeah.
Is he selling me something? Well, is he selling me something in a secret way?
Yeah.
If he's saying, hey, buy my T-shirts, okay, I'm not too worried about that. He just told me,
At least he's obvious. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, all right.
If he acts like he's sharing ideas, but it seems like he's just really selling it and he's not just giving it to you as a gift, there's a distinction there. Sometimes it can be hard to tell. And also, is this person or is this information, is it promoting what you would consider like positive things?
Yes.
Or is it full of fear and hate, and division,
yes, exactly,
and all
exactly.
that?
Yeah, which you have to be, again, you got to use your own judgment to determine if something's BS or not. Which you'll know. I think any reasonable person who's going to know, man, is this guy talking crap or what?
Yeah.
Again, be aware.
Right.
Know yourself. Know your morals. Do I dare use that word? Morals. You got to be reasonable.
Yeah.
Which I know that means a lot of different things to a lot of different people, but it's important that you know yourself and have some kind of standard.
Because it's just we're just blasted with technology and
All the
information, just all the time, so much to the point where it's like, I don't know. I mean, you almost have to take steps to get away from it. Like
Step back from it. Yeah.
Yeah, like recently, I've realized that I almost like can't go. Like I've gotten to a habit where I gotta bring my smartphone almost everywhere I go. To have something to look at. So I've been trying to say, okay, I'm going to stop doing that. I've got a computer. If I need to look up something, if I think of something I need to look up, that's important, I'll do it. But I've been trying to cut back on that because it ends up being this crutch. It's like, you get sucked into that world. And you don't have to think about the real world.
You got me. Yes, I cannot leave. There's a condition now. People get anxiety attacks if they're too far away from their phone.
Wow.
It's a chrophobia, something like that.
Yeah.
I'll look it up later.
Yeah.
But there's a condition that if people get anxiety, oh my God, where's my phone? Lord above. Which is the world we live in. It's your lifeline, and I think I don't think that's good.
No.
Remember back in the old days, the dark ages, when all you could do was talk on the phone?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I remember it was right after we came across the prairie. Yeah. Yeah, right after that, right after the Civil War, it was. All you could do was talk on the phone. Yeah. And now that seems like eons ago.
Yeah.
It's like now the standard is, I have to be able to check my email and internet and Facebook. What the dude?
Talking on the phone feels like some extra feature.
It's like, talk. Talk. I want to talk to you. I'll send you a text if I want to say it. What the hell wrong with you? Yeah, I mean, I don't want to be that guy, which I went to the bank lately, and they're like, why don't you just do online banking? I'm like, because I don't want to become that guy in the dark room with his computer.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. No human contact. Just the way I like it. Yeah. No, I don't want to be that guy.
It's a tough balance between technology and everything. You have to really, it's an awesome tool.
It has its place. Definitely has its place. Right. Excellent. But don't go crazy.
But it can be like an addiction. It is. I mean, it's almost,
it is.
It's like people look at, like drugs are the only things you can be addicted to. Not true at all.
Not true at all. Food.
Yeah, exactly.
Phones.
Yeah.
I have a phone addiction. Give me a hamburger and a smartphone, man. I need it, man. Come on. Hey, man, you got any minutes, man? Any minutes?
You're like sneaking into Walmart and stealing the minute cards.
Yeah, man. Come on, man. Just some national access.
Yeah.
Verizon, man. I just gave them a plug.
Yeah.
Edit that.
Verizon, that's the good stuff.
Yeah, man. Not that. Let me stop. So yeah, it's the world we live in. Unfortunately, have we lost something? Yes, I think. Where a lot of people, the idea of human contact is scary to them.
Yeah,
because it's easier just to text them or email them. I'm all about. I want to talk to a person. I hate that, like those robocalls.
Oh man,
those prompts,
those are the worst.
At the beep, say whichever option. What?
Yeah, you gotta get through all these different options, and like there isn't a good one. And,
yeah, exactly. I'm like, can I just talk to a person? What? Talk to a person? What?
Yeah.
They're like, I got this image of somebody on the other end going, he wants to talk to a person. God.
Yeah, and they like keep going to the higher levels of management. He wants to talk to a person.
What do we do? And they call India. What do you want to do?
Yeah. You notice how like if you have some problem, whatever, your cable company, whatever, and you get that guy over in India, and it's funny. He they're always really nice, and he like feels for you, like I feel for you.
Very terrible, son.
Yeah,
terrible.
Yeah, but they don't really understand like what the problem is.
No, there's a prompt card. If they say this, say that. If they say this, say that. And unfortunately, they have that with 911 operators too. I think I called for a situation a couple of weeks ago. And all right, he's out there. We got a man just pulled off. He's got this much. He's got this. He's got that. And I believe he has a weapon. They're like, "What's your location?" Okay, it's this. And the guy with the gun is going that way. And your name again? Oh, the guy just lifts his part. Okay, and what is your number? Dude. So yeah.
Yeah.
You got to expect
I bet nothing phases them.
That's right. You're right. I mean, it's like, okay, what's that? What's that? A bat just flew out this guy's mouth and lodged in this woman's hair. All right, what is your number again?
Yeah. Okay, you're gonna need to fill out a 47B.
Hold 1 minute, sir. So, it's technology, great.
Yeah.
It has its place. We are not these anti-technology people.
No,
In fact, we can't go back. And
Yeah.
we can't go back.
Oh, it's here. There's nothing we can do
that's
about
right.
it. It's, to me, it's all about finding a good, happy medium with it, a good balance, and I think that's what it comes down to. It's whenever something is new, it's always out of kilter. Whenever something new happens, and then it has to have time to kind of settle, and
especially with let's beat cell phones again. Especially with these new phones, this gosh darn 6-week-old technology. They come out with a new one every 6 months.
Yeah.
So, you expect me. My son was like, "You expect me to use a phone that's more than a year old? What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
You think I'm a cave dweller? Oh, I'm sorry, Mister. Live with me and eat my chow and use my. I bought the phone for you.
I remember it's been a few years ago. My phone had a problem. Oh yeah, I dropped it in some water. So I had to use a phone that was older, and it was only like a year or so old, and I was almost embarrassed to pull it out. You know what I mean?
I'm sorry. You apologize. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I lost my other one.
Like that's how fast things move. It's crazy. Like, can you imagine that? Like a year-old piece of technology. I was like embarrassed to pull it out of my pocket.
I'm sorry. It's 8 months old. I apologize.
But it was like right around that time where about half of the people had smartphones.
Yeah.
And I had one of the newer flip phones.
Phone. Woo.
Yeah, at that time, so I had like a newer version of the old technology.
Okay.
But then that's what got messed up. So then I had to use my old flip phone.
Oh my God.
And it was like it was bigger and just it looked archaic.
Of course, smartphones are the new standard.
Yeah.
It's a new standard. You can't really do business or communicate unless you got a smartphone. Unfortunately, they're expensive. I know that. Whoa.
Yeah.
But they work. I gotta give it up to them. I was doing this thing in southwestern Oklahoma. I called from the middle of a prairie in the middle of nowhere, and I had to tell the lady, "You won't believe where I'm calling from."
Yeah.
I'm on a mountaintop in the middle of Jerkwater, Oklahoma. And you're talking to me. So it was great. Yes.
Yeah.
It's great. Which, back to survival, don't count your smartphone either.
Yeah.
Because just when you need it, it's not going to work.
Yeah, exactly.
Right there, guarantee you.
Yep.
You're on the side of the road, on a mountainside with a broken leg. Well, I'll just call for help. No service.
Yeah. That's why having contingency plans is important.
Exactly.
And just and like we were saying, these are all. We got to remember that these things are tools, not crutches.
Yes.
That's what's important. Even like to me, like this that we're doing right now is a cool balance of technology. It's newer technology that allows us to do what we're doing. We have this conversation,
Exactly.
and it's just us in this room, but yet people can watch later when I put it up on the internet or on iTunes and all this different stuff. But yet it's also like you were saying, people don't want to have a real human connection anymore, a conversation. So it's like a balance of both. It's like it's technology, but yet we're having a conversation. And
Well, dealing with people face to face can be tougher.
yeah,
It is tougher. Because you see those telephone tough guys, who talk all kinds of crap to you. But if you knew if I was in front of them, they wouldn't have the balls to talk to me like that.
well, on the internet, people in the comments.
Yeah, take that. Yeah,
Yeah.
right, yeah. Yeah, tough guy, gangster. Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay, guy.
Yeah.
Whatever.
I had this one guy. Of course, I mean, I'm like completely jaded to like troll comments. I've been doing this long enough. I've seen everything. Like nobody can say something that I haven't seen before. But it's funny that one that comes to mind though. Recently on a video, I had this one guy, one of the shooting videos on that channel, Hickok 45 and Sun channel. Some guy made the comments like, "I was like, yeah, let me see what you do when those targets are shooting back at you."
Okay, guy.
It's like,
Whatever.
first of all, like, who are you?
Yeah.
You know, let's hear some of your credentials first.
Yeah.
Before we start talking about me.
Yeah.
Let's talk about you
let's
first.
establish who you are.
Right.
Yeah.
I apologize that I don't enjoy sport shooting in the face of death.
And, and you should always try to avoid other people shooting back at you whenever possible. Yes, let's
Right.
avoid that.
I'm pretty sure if I had those kind of targets on my range, I would send them back.
That's right.
Where they came from.
That's right. And yes, it is different. Yes, it is different. But we should always avoid that whenever possible.
It's like what, never practice because it's not the real thing.
Well, yeah. If they ain't shooting back, why shoot?
Yeah, exactly.
The hell wrong with you, boy?
Yeah. That kind of stuff, usually they're just trying to get a rise out of you.
Of course. I mean, you can't worry about what people say because people will say anything. And they do.
Right.
All the time.
Yeah.
All the time. You couldn't do anything like this if that bothered you. You couldn't.
No, you can't.
You can't.
Yeah.
In fact, that's good. That's good that he said it. That means you're listening. That means you're watching. Hell, come on now.
Oh, yeah.
What else you got to say? Come on, tell me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Come on now.
Yeah. I know.
So you always got to, you know how people are. Again, it's like the Old West. If you're the new kid with the good shot, 2 guns, there's always that guy that's gonna come challenge you.
Yeah.
How good would you be against me? I don't know. Well, hey.
Hey, and who knows? Maybe the whole trolling thing could be a good thing because one of the things that you see, in like more uneducated people is they get real bent out of shape whenever someone talks bad about them.
Oh my God!
You know what I'm talking about? It's like, can you believe he said that or she said that? It's like, come on.
People can say anything, and they do all the time. That's why you can't worry about what people say, especially the negative stuff.
Drama. We've all known people like that. It's like always they got something to say about like someone. Like that's why I just stopped even looking at my personal Facebook because it's like you had all these posts about just stupid stuff like that, and it's just.
Plus, you got people that are going to be envious, people who are jaded for whatever reason, and they resent anyone that has different views from them. Again, you can't worry about that. Well, it's great that they can comment. Hey, it's a free country. By God, yes, make your comment. But that's all it is, dude. It's your opinion.
Right.
That's all it is.
Sometimes people get almost too concerned about, what other people think. It all comes down. Yeah, it comes back to, confidence, just being confident in yourself and who
yourself,
you are.
Your abilities. I don't care what he thinks. Fine.
Yeah.
Like, I got to say one thing. Be careful what you post, people, because I saw this picture of this guy. Not in the best shape. I'm being nice. Wearing a bikini. A man-kini, or whatever you want to call it.
A man-kini?
With all his weapons on the bed.
Oh, I've seen that. I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Dude.
Well, definitely. Like that, I saw that there's like a couple of different versions of that picture that I run across online sometimes. That's got to be set up. Like that guy knew it. It wasn't like that guy was serious. Like that was a joke.
I hope it was. I hope you were kidding. Dude. But I'm like, dude.
He's got like the unibrow and everything.
So I'm like, dude.
Yeah.
Please.
Or it's probably some anti-gunner did that, to make us look bad.
Oh, yeah. Oh, dude. Yeah. I hope they paid you a lot of money, whoever did that.
Really? That's funny. Oh, there's this picture I saw run across on the internet. What was that I was looking for? Something about guns. I was looking for something funny to post on Facebook. I ran across this picture. And it's this guy that had all these gang tats, right? And one of them, he had this big one across his chest. It said something like "hard to kill" or something like that. And he's sitting in a hospital bed, right? And he's got a Bowie knife sticking out of his head.
Oh,
it's like stuck like between his eye and his nose or something, just like right there.
Oh,
yeah. Talk about irony. It's like, all right, you deserve that tat then.
Dude. Oh my God. Okay. Posers. Posers.
He's not a poser, probably.
That guy, I guess not. I mean, well, he could have been, and then somebody challenged him.
That's true.
And then, hey, I guess you're not that hard to kill.
Yeah. Well, he was alive.
Oh, he was?
Yeah.
Oh, dude.
That's what made it funny. Okay. So he was hard to kill, it turned out.
Yeah, I guess so. Knife in the head, you're still breathing? I guess you're right.
I guess he knew something that we didn't when he got that tattoo.
Jesus. Okay.
But that is one of my favorite Steven Seagal movies, by the way, Hard to Kill.
Steven Seagal. Okay.
I like some of those. They're okay.
He's good. He's good. I mean, okay, I'll leave him alone. He's a cop in Louisiana. He's a deputy in some Louisiana town. So I'll give it up to him. Okay.
Yeah.
In fact, I saw that show he had on A&E. Whenever he jumped out of the car, the first thing the criminal went was Steven Seagal.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. That show was kind of corny.
And I was like,
Some of his early movies were actually pretty good, I thought.
But as he got older, it's like
the last one that was, well, I don't know. Once you got into the late 90s, that kind of got weird.
It's like, the hairline receded more. The gut came out. Okay, Steven.
Under Siege was a great one, though.
Great movie. Bob God, way to go. Navy SEAL becomes a cook.
Yeah.
Completely plausible. Completely plausible.
Cool plot line, though.
That's right. Yeah. Hey, saves the last U.S. battleship.
Yeah.
And keeps his long ponytail.
Yeah, now how does that work?
Way to go, Steve.
Yeah, that's right. It doesn't matter like what job he has in a movie. He always has that ponytail. That's funny. All right, so one of the other things I want to talk about, which is, been a huge thing right now, of course, and this has been trending, unfortunately, in our country in the recent year or so, or whatever, is the riots, the Baltimore riots, the recent one. And, there's been several of these kind of things happening with Ferguson and different situations, to the point where it's getting to the point where it's a pretty big deal. I think 10, 15 years from now, they'll look back and say, oh, yeah, I remember that time when all those riots were happening. Like it's a pretty big deal. And it's just, man, it's such a complicated issue. And I don't even assume to even try to understand the reality of what's actually happening with the actual cases, right? The cop and the different people involved in this case. Like to me, it's not beside the point. That is important, obviously. But the real issue is the carnage that is being done in the name of these issues, whether they are wrong or right or unjust, whatever it is.
No one understands that why these individuals are destroying their own community. Even the mayor of Baltimore said, this is not anger, this is destruction.
Right.
You're destroying your own community, which no one understands. And in fact, the black female mayor of Baltimore said, this is not helping. And now some of the people that are sympathetic with the rioters have said this is how they show their frustration. Well, yes, I understand that at some level, but at the same time, you still have to live there.
Right.
And you're destroying the place where you live, which is not good.
You're taking one alleged injustice and turning it into thousands.
Exactly.
You're destroying people's businesses,
their
they work
livelihood,
hard.
And any hope. Now, things were already tough in these communities before this incident. Now, they're going to be even tougher. And I have to wonder, just like Ferguson or some other places, how many people that actually live there were doing this?
That was the big thing with Ferguson is a lot of people
came from other places, from outside the community.
Because they saw the coverage. They saw the coverage in the news. And
it was an excuse to create havoc, mayhem.
Right.
So I have to wonder. Everyone agrees it doesn't make sense, but then people are known for doing things that don't make sense.
When you get people in large groups, they just behave differently.
Different kind of that herd mentality.
Yeah.
People that would not do things like this individually, but they will do it in a group.
Right.
So I'm not there. Personally, I would handle it differently, but at the same time, it was a highly politicized environment. They had the city of Baltimore and the state of Maryland had to tiptoe around how they handle it.
Right.
Which I'm not that position, but if things were maybe the way they should be, I don't think you can allow mayhem like that.
Right.
Because again, they're destroying their own community, making it hard for innocent subjects, innocent victims. I don't think you can allow that. And I think maybe Baltimore PD was outnumbered at the time, but as soon as they got the people and assets they needed, they should have just took care of it, which I think they did.
Right.
By instituting the curfew, which I think this is the last day of it, I believe. But they slowly regained control. And it's easy for me to sit here and Monday morning quarterback them.
Yeah.
Very easy. But it worked out. It's not at the same level that some other riots have been. Good. So let's just hope for the best. Let's hope that we don't see any more of this.
I don't know. It's a tough call because what can be done to fix these kind of situations. You have so many complex issues, we have, and the obvious one, of course, is the race issue, right? Where it's become this like, this black and white thing. It's like, white cops oppressing, black people in their neighborhoods.
2 of the officers detained that are in custody now are black, by the way.
Yeah.
I think we won't see the same level that we saw in Ferguson because they got 6 officers in custody now.
Right.
And they're taking, positive steps to, and one of them's being charged with manslaughter, 2nd degree, manslaughter, so I don't think we'll see the same level as in some of these other riots because somebody's been held responsible. They're already in custody. Let the system do what it's supposed to do.
Yeah, one of the problems with these events is they become a chain reaction.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing, this is something that I've told people a lot. While it's horrible if any injustice is being done to anyone, regardless of what their race is, what their ethnic background, doesn't matter. Injustice is injustice.
Yeah.
It's the people. That's the thing that matters. So, but these kind of situations, they happen occasionally.
Yeah.
And whether it's an injustice or not, you have situations where, someone gets killed or whatever happens, it's, whether it's a white police officer, whatever, just like we talked about with the Ferguson thing, these things happen. And then what happens is one of these events becomes a big news item. It gets covered like crazy in the news. So basically what that ensures is that every time something remotely like that happens again,
it's going to be covered. The media has a pack mentality. Yeah. And I think we maybe covered that before. If they don't cover something like this, that someone else will.
Right.
And a lot of these news agencies feel like I have to cover it because it's what people want to see.
Yeah.
Even though they say they don't, it's what. If it bleeds, it leads.
Yeah.
So
well, a good example of this is I want to say it was a couple years ago, maybe longer. There was a bunch of coverage in the news all of a sudden about all these like mass like fish and bird deaths and stuff. Like a bunch of fish were dying at one time. They had these pictures of like a ton of dead fish and then like tons of dead birds and all this kind of stuff. Real scary, apocalyptic looking stuff, right? And there was a bunch of news coverage about it. People were getting kind of worried. Well, a scientist came on. He was like, "Hey, like this happens. This happens. Like
all the time.
Like this is a common thing. Like this just happens every year or something. Like there's different reasons for it, and birds get lost in their big groups and stuff. Like there's different reasons for it. Yeah. And then the news was kind of forced to like kind of let it go. So it's like the news, they pick up on something that they know is going to sell, and it's like there's stories. Constantly there's some big American issue is just floating out there right now. It's happening right now. Nobody knows about it until the media decides to snatch it up and then turn it into a national concern.
Natural Born Killers with Woody Harrelson and Juliette Lewis.
Yeah,
Oliver.
Great movie. Well, I mean, it's an interesting movie.
It's one of the biggest point of the movie was Robert Downey Jr. His character. The news guy, and Woody Harrelson said the media buys and sells fear every day.
Yeah,
and it's you can say what you want. They can say, "Well, we're just covering the news." No, you're covering the news that you think people will watch.
Yeah,
and there are a lot of good stories out there, but they're boring.
Right.
All that helping people and making life better. That's good for the last 2 minutes of the broadcast, but that plane crash. Like one thing I noticed that they'll tell you, plane crash, 48 people killed, but they don't tell you where.
Oh yeah.
Film at 11, and you turn back and it's like in, East Zimbabwe or somewhere. It's like,
Yeah.
Not that it's not tragic, but why would I care? It's across the ocean. I don't care.
Yeah.
But they made people watch.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's the world we live in.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, I appreciate you coming on, man. And
hey, that was sudden. What happened?
It was almost like you tapped your watch together. Hey, man, I got places to be. No,
the obvious one. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh, we're on camera. Oh,
No, it's all good, man. No, you got a busy night tonight with the boxing match.
That's right. By God, let Bedlam begin. And I've been waving this magazine around the whole thing.
Yeah, there you go.
Yes. Bring on the Bedlam.
Yeah. Speaking of riots.
And we got reports, too, that because of this latest situation, that certain gangs, allegedly, certain security threat groups are targeting police officers and security.
Man.
Yes, bring it on. Bring them to me. Okay, that's it. Remember that at my funeral, all right?
Okay. Well, if you need to borrow any guns while you're here,
since I'm here, I'll check the arsenal.
Yeah. But yeah, man, I'll let you get to your other duties.
Yes, I'll be in the Denver area, just south of here.
We do these shows right on the border of Denver and Boston.
That's right. Somewhere north of Montreal. I'm not sure.
Yeah, with New Mexico right to the south. But all right, man. Well, I always appreciate you coming on. And
anytime.
We'll do it again soon, man.
Hey.
All right, we'll talk to you guys later.